This is my interpersonal communication project for Human Services 508 with Liberty University. Hi, my name is Lynn Weymouth. I am happy to be a part of this class and to be involved with all of the wonderful teachers and students that I have met and interacted with along the way. I currently work for a private nonprofit agency in the Northern Shenandoah Valley, providing behavioral treatment services to children and families in the home dealing with autism spectrum disorders. This class on interpersonal communication has taught me a lot about myself. It has taught me about my relationships, both romantic and platonic. It has taught me about my professional interactions with adults and with children. It has taught me about my perception and how I take in the information that is shared by those who I come in contact with. I'm excited to practice and perfect all that I have learned, and even more excited about what I have yet to learn in terms of my interpersonal communication. One overarching goal for improving my life in terms of the process of conversation is to be able to use my heart and my ears more often when giving advice as opposed to my mouth and my words. In doing this, I may be able to strengthen my identity with those with whom I come in contact, in work or in play. In John Stewart's Bridges, Not Walls, he defines identity as a constellation of features or labels that establish social expectations that we have of ourselves and of others. In this way, one theorizes that we are able to form ourselves and our identities through what is expected and how we are judged in the community. Our social impressions give us the ability to create portions of our personality, one situation at a time. An individual's reputation is formed, and a portion of their personality has been created each time they engage in conversation. Psalms 19 verse 14 states, "May the words of my mouth and the thoughts of my heart be pleasing to you, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer." In this way, an individual hopes that the true thoughts and feelings had by all are done so in the light of Jesus Christ and His mercy. God does not judge us, but rather gives us an entire life to become the person that we want to be. In Burley Allen's Listening, the Forgotten Skill, she discusses a belief system process in which she notes that when we listen to ourselves, we can increase our self-awareness and begin to understand why we behave the way we do. This is a very powerful message. Most of us do not sit down in front of a mirror or a camera to play out our conversations that we intend to have throughout the day. Most of us speak from the spontaneous conversations that are initiated by others' words, actions, or situations. I'm sure that if we did this, we would not always be pleased with what actually comes out of our mouths. We must be able to be held accountable for our actions as well as our words, as they may not be taken back. When we respond to others, they are given a portion of ourselves and have the ability to create a judgment and carry on a characteristic of our reputation. The responses that we offer in our daily lives should be carefully and strategically planned. There is no way to take back what we say, so we must take every opportunity to choose our words carefully. Stewart states, "Every baby is born into a world of verbal and nonverbal talk, family relationships, gender patterns, ongoing activities, and social and political events. We must do our best to make sure that our responses and communication are positive reflections of our personality and our character." By engaging in empathetic listening, one might be able to gain a better understanding of others and the intentions that allow for a better, more clear back-and-forth conversation in between two individuals. With this, the listener shows a level of compassion through the ways that he or she listens and speaks that gives the speaker the courage to justify their sharing of personal information. Burley Allen wrote this with regard to empathetic listening. "Many people have found that the empathetic approach to listening to be a powerful tool for improving their people skills." A behavioral blend is a combination of many different aspects of a person's behaviors and personality traits that are able to combine to define a specific and basic personality type. My behavior blend is IS, or SI, and this has answered a lot of questions about my personal traits that I did not know about myself. Several of the details that were suggested in the text were completely pertinent to my personal life. Carbonell says, "You don't seem to have any enemies regarding this personality type. Throughout my life, I have had many friends and even more acquaintances, and there are only 2 people in my life that I could consider an enemy. You don't like to fight, and you go out of your way to avoid conflicts." Carbonell as well. "I have always been criticized for being passive-aggressive. I have great comebacks and vengeful action plans, but nothing in response when I am confronted. This has caused many rifts and has put me in many situations where I have shorted myself because I would not stand up and confront my opposition." Stewart uses the term inhaling and exhaling to define the verbal and nonverbal portions of the communication process. Inhaling highlights the perception and listening parts of the communication process, and exhaling focuses attention on the messages that are expressed. As we inhale in a conversation, we take the information that we have and the information that others give us, and we form our verbal responses to keep the conversation flowing. When we exhale, we take the information that the person has given us and we analyze it and the message that the other person wants to communicate to us, or the nonverbal part. In Burley Allen's text, she provides the reader guidelines to ensure that we are able to make listening a profitable and successful part of our lives. The first guideline provided suggests avoid being critical and judgmental. This type of listening often increases the emotional level of the talker. This concept speaks to me, as I am the type of person where my emotional level is expressed in nearly every part of my life. In a typical conversation with a family, friend, client, or acquaintance, I cannot help but feel emotionally attached, even after just exchanging pleasantries. This is something I am trying to reconcile, but it is very difficult for me. Our stability is dependent on many factors in our lives: financial, mental health, medical, transportation. All of these pieces fit together to create the stable human being that we strive to be each day. Most people in Western cultures have been taught to think of themselves as individual containers that enclose their unique essence, says Stewart. Our emotional stability has a great deal to do with the stability throughout other areas of our lives, but there is very little that is not influenced by those major aspects. When we ensure that we have a stable balance of all aspects of our lives, we are able to better communicate, and we can express to others how we might attain those stabilities. In Burley Allen's Listening, the Forgotten Skill, she exclaims, "Resistance to listening tends to be our cultural norm. We are often taught that speaking represents action and power, whereas listening connotes weakness and apathy. I have always considered myself a great listener, but this is before I read this book, and now I don't think so. I reconsider my skills. We need to make sure that the way we speak to others gives them just as much insight and encouragement as the words that we want to be spoken to." Stewart discusses hurtful messages when he discusses coping with communication walls. One of the most detrimental things that can be done in a newly formed romantic relationship is to either misspeak or misunderstand general or non-offending comment. Without having this open communication, adults can very easily get caught in a rut, where they're not able to effectively communicate on a regular basis in order to get through the day-to-day necessities that are involved in maintaining a successful relationship. Thank you very much for being part of my interpersonal communication project. I hope that you learned just as much from this class as I did. Good luck and God bless.